The number one thing people complain about when trying to get software engineering jobs is Leetcode, and this is why. Okay, in this video I'm going to talk to you with what is wrong with the trend with interviews and software engineering relating to Leetcode problems and how to potentially fix it. So this is coming from a software engineer. I'm a software engineer who has only solved like 48 Leetcode problems. I've also participated in some Leetcode contests, so those help a little bit, but definitely not the norm for me. And you might think to yourself, wow, only 48 problems? Wow, this guy's an amateur. Well, yeah, you might be right there. Like, there's what, like 1,000 Leetcode problems? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have solved all of them. And probably the average software engineer, like at big name companies, has probably solved like over 100. So 48 isn't really anything compared to that. But you also might be saying, wow, I haven't solved any. I've got to get started on that. And you might be right or wrong. So I got that 100 Leetcode problem to get into big name companies from like Reddit. Because people generally say you need 100 Leetcode problems to get into a big name company. And I guess that generally makes sense. Of course, it's not a hard set number because you could, if you solve like one problem and you get to really know it, you might be able to solve some other problems as well. So I don't think you necessarily need that many. You probably need less. Like if you want to get in with a higher percentage chance. Of course, if you solve more, you'll have like a higher percent chance, but maybe instead of like 30% chance of getting the job offer to like 50. So it really depends on how many you solve. So the reason why I only did 48 Leetcode problems was because I wasn't really looking for a job. I kind of wanted to understand what these kind of problems entailed, and they were kind of enjoyable a little bit because I knew the data structures and everything like that, but I wanted like a refresher on what these kind of problems were like, and it was kind of enjoyable to solve them and figure out how to solve them as well without looking at the solutions, because that's kind of cheating. It doesn't really teach you anything. But I eventually got burned out on it, and that's why I only got to 48. I would say the general majority of those problems were easy problems, and although I did solve some mediums and hards, of course more mediums than hards, but yeah, it's generally better, that people say, to practice on mediums once you got to the easies figured out. And I feel like I've got the easies figured out now, so that's what kind of phase I'm in Leetcode. All right, the reason why Leetcode is a toxic trend for interviews is because it forces you to spend a lot of time outside of your work or your classes solving these Leetcode problems. So a lot of time, as in, it's generally recommended to at least spend or solve a problem or two a day, once every day, for like a couple months before even applying to one of these big name companies. And that's a toxic, I guess, culture for software engineers, because no other, I guess, career path will ask you to study that much every other day, except for software engineering. Like if you're a lawyer, you're not going to go home and if you want to get a better job, you're not going to go home and study lawyer problems every day. That's just not something lawyers do. Yeah, but then again, lawyers, everyone wants to be a lawyer as well. However, you have to go through law school to be a lawyer. So I guess that's kind of why there's not like a big lawyer question kind of thing. But what do I know about lawyering? I'm not a lawyer. So I guess one thing that lawyers and software engineers have in common is they have a lot of applicants into these kind of jobs, or I guess law schools or whatnot. And the reason they have a lot of applicants into both of them is because they make a lot of money. And money is what people want. So if they make a lot of money, then there's going to be a lot of applicants. And if there's going to be a lot of applicants, there's going to be a lot of people trying to get the job. And the more people try to get the job, the less time per each person to see if they understand it or not. And how do you check if they are a good candidate for the job? Well, Leetcode is how that kind of works. So to take an example of this, at Google, only 1 in 130 people will get the job out of applying for it. So that's less than a percent of people will get the job that actually apply. And these big name companies can do this without any repercussion. Like Facebook, Amazon, they can do this because there's so many applicants. So consequently, the people that get into these big name companies like Google and Facebook make it their life mission to get in there because it's so hard, and that's why people want it. They don't care about the journey that much. They just want to get to the destination. So one caveat of this is that a small proportion of these interviews are actually going to be relating to Leetcode. So I wouldn't say like 5%, but maybe around 5%, maybe probably a little bit more, most of it is probably going to see if you're a fit to the company's culture, if they like you, which probably matters a little bit more than if you can solve some dumb Leetcode problem, which will probably take an average person a long time to solve. So how do you fix this issue where Leetcode is kind of toxic to the interview culture? And there's a bunch of different ideologies of how to fix this culture. And one of them is, of course, you stop asking these questions. And then what happens when you stop asking these questions? So once you stop asking these Leetcode style questions, companies have to find a different way to figure out if you're a good fit for the job or not. And the reason they have to find a good way to tell if you're a good fit for the job or not is because they have so many applicants. And how are you going to tell who to give the offers to or not? You don't want to like put some idiot on the hobo on the streets with that doesn't know anything about coding, software engineering, solving problems at all, who give them a $150K salary. You don't want to do that as a big company. That's a big risk. So one way you could do it instead of Leetcode is you could probably have give them like a problem to solve that is on the job, kind of like an on-the-job problem that normally gets solved during the job. It doesn't have to be an exact problem on the job. Maybe something similar, because you don't want to like give out company secrets or anything like that. But maybe give them something to solve on the job. So that'll tell if you're a good fit for the job or not. So this kind of problem would be a coding problem, and it would be different than Leetcode, but it would be different because it would have like a real-world application. And some Leetcode problems do have real-world applications as well, but this one would like kind of apply to some kind of problem. Maybe like you got to figure out which warehouse to put all your shipments to for Amazon or something like that. I don't know. So the downside to this, I guess, solution is that it would be expensive and take a long time, because solving kind of these real-world problems take a long time because the person has to understand how the problem, I guess, everything around the problem. And that's why Leetcode is kind of easy, because you just need to know the very specific problem that Leetcode is trying to solve in this case. So another potential solution to have instead of Leetcode is to have the interviewer kind of look more deeply into someone's side projects. So see what kind of code that they have already written, and see if their code that they've written is good or bad or not, or if it's terrible, then don't hire them. So this would also take a long time, because you have to read through all their side projects, and a person might have a lot of side projects, so that really depends on the person. But that will take a long time, but it isn't a different idea. So a conclusion I have came to is that these Leetcode kind of problems aren't the end-all be-all. Like, if you can't solve them, that's okay. There's plenty of other companies that don't ask these Leetcode questions. Like, these big name companies aren't the end of the world if you don't get in. It's okay. There's plenty of companies out there. There's plenty of fish in the sea. So oftentimes these other companies pay just as much as big name companies, or maybe a little bit less, but maybe it's like a better environment for you. So the career might even be more stable because there's less applicants trying to take your job every day. I mean, if there's less applicants, then there's less competition for you, right? It also could make you maybe more well-respected, because maybe you could have gone to like one of these bigger companies, but now you're smarter than everyone else at this lesser-known company, so maybe you're more respected. People like being respected. Well, anyways, that's my take on this whole Leetcode thing. I guess like the video, let me know what you think. Peace, later.